What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show. And I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Noreen Renier, who is a psychic detective and the only psychic to ever work with the FBI. Now, she's appeared on Good Morning America and Fox's On the Record and many more. She joins me today to discuss her book, Mind for Murder, and much more. Noreen Renier, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate you being here today and giving us your time. Well, I'm thinking, where the heck are we going to start here? Real life psychic investigator for murder, basically. That's what we're going to head towards today in this interview. Obviously, when growing up, did you ever have any sort of ESP abilities, any sort of psychic abilities that you were aware of?
None whatsoever. I really grew up as a skeptic. I was told that people, they called them gypsies in those days, would steal chickens and tell everybody they were going to marry a tall, dark, handsome man. So I was a disbeliever and a skeptic, very skeptical about the phenomena.
So there was there was some abilities. There was a card reader in the family in the end, you discovered.
After I had been psychic for a few years, my father confessed his mother, who could not play cards, he would come home from school and she would have cards and a neighbor sitting across the table from her and reading cards. Absolutely, yes, yes. And my mother was very intuitive, really, but they just didn't use the same words. They used different words, but it meant the same thing. They didn't work on crimes, but they were very intuitive.
Yes, yeah, okay, absolutely. So this intuitive ability has obviously been inherited by yourself. Would you say though that we all have this ability?
I would say we all have it to different degrees. Some of us will be Picassos, others will be the Saturday painter. We all have it, but to what degree, that's what changes. It's like intelligence. It's like intelligence. We all have but some people are wonderful in math. I mean, I never could get beyond adding and subtracting. My brain, my neurons never clicked that way. So again, it's the way our brain is shaped, I think, the way our neurons work is what creates our special stuff.
Well, I would completely agree again with you there. Do not worry. I passed my dyslexia test with flying colours. It was one of the only tests I did pass so well. And I think dyscalculate was in there as well. I probably even got the name wrong. So yes, so maths was never my forte, but I did always like business and I do like money. So adding up is not a bad thing. So okay, yeah, you were born. Yeah, okay, so you were born with it. It's in the family. Now I don't think you're someone really who really wants to question too much what this is. You just do it.
That's it. It's sort of like, I don't care how electricity works. I just want to be able to push a switch and make it work. And I want to my bottom line is helping. If I use my logical mind to figure out what I was doing, I would be so confused. I would probably not be able to do what I do. So most people, they worry if they're going to be wrong. I never worry if I'm wrong. I'm just reporting what I'm seeing in my head. If I say it wrong or I don't say it quite right, but you can't use your logic to block that intuitive flow.
No. Would you find that it's a sort of scenario of a lot of trust if you did start using your logical mind, in the sense that to trust that you're giving the right information to these families who, would so, look upon you as their final source in a sense?
It's a lot of pressure, and all I can focus on is giving them the information I'm seeing as clearly as possible. The 3 words I program myself with is truth, honesty, and clarity. I must always speak the truth, always honest, and that's mostly my client. I'm giving them to be honest, and the clarity of seeing as clear as I can.
Yes, absolutely. And do you find as you've got, as we all get older, do you find yourself with such a gift as this, looking at the nature of, what this could be a little bit more in the sense of what is consciousness? If this is beyond the brain, this gift, which to me it is, for your gift is beyond the brain, then therefore there's some eternalness, that you're connected to bring this information through.
Wow. Pretty heavy stuff. It's just my job. I can't think I'm special, or I can't think any other way. That it's just what I do, and I think I do it very well.
Yes, I think you do. I mean, you've had so many cases that have been solved because of what you do. Is that not true?
Absolutely. In the beginning, because I get lost very easily. I can get lost in a department store. I don't know right from left. So in the beginning, I only worked on homicide. I only worked for, I think, first 5 or 6 years because I was so afraid I would give wrong information. And then when I did start finding people, the first thing I was finding was an airplane, and it was from a FBI agent. And I would have said no. I would have said no to someone else, but I felt pressure. An FBI agent's wife was referred to me, and here I get lost in Kmart or I don't know what your stores are. My sense of direction is nil, and all of a sudden I'm giving longitude and latitude, which I didn't really know the numbers were that. I just told her how important these two sets of numbers were. And I remember, God, do you want me to tell you the story of the airplane?
Well, why not? Sure, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I didn't want to do it. And I told her, I'm a homicide psychic, that's all I work on. And she begged me, you please, the Civil Patrol, which in our country, they search for 2 weeks, and then if they can't find whatever they're looking for, they give up. And she said, please, they've given up. My brother, he's very athletic. He could still be alive. And so finally, she just wore me down. I said, okay. And then I realized everything was with him, and I'm a psychometrist. I touch items, and everything was missing with him. So I thought, oh, my God, what am I going to do? Bring me something he used to wear or touch or use. So she brought me a jar where he used to put pennies in, and I think an old wallet. And I started describing him, and she would give me the yeses, and then I started describing the two people in the front of the plane, and she didn't know who was in the front of the plane, so I stopped that. And then she asked me, I know, I became the plane. And it was really weird. I had never done this before, so I'm sort of in awe myself because I'm up in the air, and it's dark, and all of a sudden this bright light from below hits the plane, hits me, and as the plane, I'm turn very sharply, and for some reason I can see below me what's below me, and I describe the marsh, I describe the quicksand, all what I'm seeing, and then I crash, but I don't explode. And I see the two men in the front seat, their necks are broken. But she doesn't care about anybody else. She wants to know what her brother is doing. But I still don't know where the brother is yet. And I see somebody, I don't know if it's her brother, he's carrying something, and he's placing it under a tree, and there's flatness. I see flat rocks under it. And then he walks away. Oh, dear, I'm leaving out a lot. But he walks away, and that's when I started yelling at her, no, you want me to make him alive? I'm not doing any more. I got to backtrack later, but what he had placed under the tree was a headless woman. In the accident, the woman next to him in the back seat, she was decapitated, and he, in shock, didn't realize it and was just trying to rescue her, and he had walked several feet, and the police could tell because of the stickers on his pants. But that's sort of a short version.
Oh my gosh! Now, did he pass in the end from his own injuries?
Yes. He was probably half dead then. It was just, and what else was interesting, before I saw that part, they were saying where, and I saw this, like, I'm still up in the air, and I see this, like, yellow ribbon, and at the bottom of this hill, I see a headless woman. This woman comes into me, her face, but she has no teeth, and I hear barking dogs, and I see, like, a gas station that sells a little bit of food, and I tell her that, and the police, that's what the search people were impressed with. The woman had died the year before. She owned this little gas station, the barking dogs, and it was just up the mountain, but she was at the bottom of the mountain where they crashed. And the numbers turned out to be longitude and latitude, and I'd given her 3 initials. I don't remember now, and that's where the plane, all 3 counties came together in that area. And
gosh.
They found them, somebody with a snowmobile. It had started snowing, so they had given up the search, and then people came and found them. But everything was the same way I saw it. But it was just overwhelming, because I had never been in the sky. I never been in an airplane. I never asked. But it just took her desire, her need to find her brother was so great. It just affected my ability.
Yes.
For the good. I mean, usually I'm with cops, and they're very skeptical, and they're guarded. They're not going to tell me anything. It's my job to convince them that I'm real, and that's a whole another game, another story.
Right. Okay. So you were able to solve that case with the airplane, then? That was.
Oh, absolutely. FBI testified on my behalf against the skeptics.
Wow.
A skeptic tried to sue me, or I sued them because they were saying I didn't find the airplane. I didn't physically find it, and that's what they're using, yellow journalism, but all my clues. So when I sued him, I didn't know you couldn't do that. And I took him to court for slander, or there's another word for it. And I won, but the two FBI agents and my client, of course, testified for me in court. and I won. Slander, that was it, slander.
Slander, yeah. Okay, my God. Right, okay. What a journey, a life that you've had, and all these cases. Now, I know in the book, Mind for Murder, the real-life files of a psychic investigator, that only touches on some of the cases, obviously, some of the more cases that were poignant.
Well, just a few. It was just a few at that time, because I wrote that book early in my career. I was so afraid I would forget the beginning. I had leaped onto Mars, sort of like this whole, I was very straight-laced. I mean, I had the little picket fence, the kids, I was divorced, but, brought up very woo-woo stuff in our family. Catholic on one side, Lutheran on the other. Half my relatives were nuns or priests or something of the sort. So it just was not following in any tradition of going here.
So how did your family take this new gift that you had, and friends?
My mother lived in Florida, but she lived 2 or 3 hours away, so I would get on the phone, and she was very skeptical. And I said, well, Mother, let me tell you. And she was going, Noreen, are you sure? Are you really? And I said, but wait, let me tell you. I said, you've just injured yourself. And she said, yes. And she was I said, let me tell you where it is. And so I described this recent injury she just had, and she was just overwhelmed. My father, it took him a little longer, again, and then the police stuff, it really impressed him, being male. He really liked the policey stuff, and that's when he started confessing to me about his mother and he was very intuitive too. I think another word for him was sensitive. He and they didn't know the words in those days. I think he was an alcoholic, but only because he couldn't handle the world. It was so overwhelming to him. I mean, he was a working alcoholic, but there was no doubt he was an alcoholic. But the sensitivity of maybe what he was feeling or picking up, all of that, I really understand him so much more than if I had not developed my own ability.
Absolutely. So for example, then, when you're speaking to when you were speaking to your mother about something that was happening in her life at that moment, like an injury, or when you are when that computer side of you is switched on, is it your voice that's coming to you, or is it a separate voice, or is it just like a download? It's like a knowing. You just know. It's not a separate voice.
Oh, wow. Okay, I think there's several areas. Most of the time it's a download. It just comes through, and I'm repeating, or it's coming once in a while. Certainly when I'm getting deceased people, then the voice can change. Then it's different. But most of the time, I think, certainly with the police, I program my mind like I'm doing this missing person case. I'm not going to tell you anything about it because it's open. But every time they call me or ask me the same question, I see the same picture. And they don't realize if they reword the question in a different manner, perhaps I would see from a different perspective or different. They're realizing now everything I've said is right, but in the beginning they couldn't understand where I'm leading them to where body is, which is, really hard. I mean, certainly when we're out in the woods, we're in a state that's got woods like crazy, and it's not like there's a McDonald's 2 blocks away or there's a church. I'm way hell in the woods, and how do I get them there? How? So I don't know. I lost the question. It depends. And it certainly depends upon my cops, because 90% of the time, and I don't blame them, they're skeptical. So I really have to work very hard. And what I do sometimes, I remember doing this for this last case I'm working on, there was like 4 or 5 detectives in the room. And I had started, and I always try to describe the victim, what he or she looked like. I never want to know a name. I don't want to know if it's Mary or Sally. I don't want any skeptic saying, oh, she looked on the internet or whatever. I don't want to know who I'm looking for. I want to know if it's a homicide or a missing person. So we're on there. I do a little bit, and then all of a sudden I can feel a lot of skepticism in the room. So I said, let me just take a little break and do show off. Could everyone just say their first name one at a time? So John says his first name, and I get all double over with the stomach area. and he just had an operation. Then the other one's got the ankle, and then somebody else the neck. And now they're paying attention to me because everything I've said about them has been accurate. Now we can get back to the case with them being more open-minded. Does that make sense?
Oh God, it does. It's just bloody incredible.
Soothe the beast.
Gift. Yeah. Well, I mean that must be. Yeah, I mean that's kind of difficult, isn't it? When the cops have or the FBI have come to see you as their last point of trying to solve the case, and and there are those in the room that I do not want to be there or do not want.
That's it. Yes. Yeah, well, they're not always that bad, but still, they've got to be skeptical. I mean, they deal with hard facts. They deal with, and people lie to them all the time. And do you realize when there's a missing person case that's on television, every person that's had a dream that thinks they're psychic is calling them. Oh, I've got to tell you this. This is good. When I first started, there was a missing person in my city, and I was working on the case. I didn't solve it. We didn't find the body. But the police were getting all these calls from people all over the United States, and they were plugging them into my phone. And so I'd get a call, and somebody would say, she's in Alaska. I see her. She's in Alaska. Next call, oh, she's in the water. I see her in the South. She's in Florida. And I'm thinking, if I was a cop, I wouldn't believe any of these people. Each one was telling me something different. So I beg my students, I beg the people, don't solicit. If you really got a lot of information, write it down in great detail. Or if it's in your neighborhood or your state, go look yourself.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? That's it. Yeah, well, do you think they have the best interest, that they're coming from the most loving place, some of these people, when they give this information over actually, as far as they're concerned, they've got a gift. Yeah.
They do, but they just don't realize how much information you need to find a body.
Of course.
They just don't know. It's not just, well, she's in a box or I see her in a cellar. I mean, unless you can give it, how do we know the state?
Right,
you know, they don't realize how much detail I give. They just don't know.
And it's like you said, isn't it? It's you're either a good painter or you're one of the great painters, and it's that greatness that separates this psychic gift as well on those kind of tier levels. Yeah.
Absolutely. And see, my goal is for them not to use any of us. Let me train. We don't need 100 of them, but let me train a special squad. I was lecturing at the police in I don't know how the doors just opened in the beginning of my career. The skeptics weren't there to block it, and I used to lecture to the cops. I used to give them workshops, and they were absolutely wonderful. I mean, we don't need 100 of them, but if we had a special squad that when we have an unsolved crime that the cops, and certainly missing people or children, they can leap in right away, because I'm called in 5 years, 6 years. I'm never the first person they think of. I'm way down the road.
Yes, and I suppose it's, do you think it will always be like that? Do you think...
No, we've got to change it.
Yeah.
We can't accept it to be always like that. I've been fighting them, saying, just give me a handful. Let's just do some research. Let me show you what I can do with these men and women. Just give me a couple weeks. Let me show you. Because it would be so much, they're better at guns. They know a gun. I have to draw it. You have to go, well, you do this and this. They know cars. I mean, hell, all the cars look alike to me nowadays. They know cars. Whatever they're trained with now, we could just use it for the intuitive, and not all of them are going to be good. We don't need a lot. We just need a handful.
I mean, there is a lot of missing people in America per year, isn't there?
Oh, too many. And I have people crying to me, why don't you help them? I can't solve them all, and most of them are not even family members. And I'm sorry, but I really have to make a living. This is the only job I have. And they sort of get huffy. Well, you're charging? I mean, I really have to pay the rent. I really do. And they don't know how much I do free, which I don't like them to know.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, well, actually, let me rephrase that for you as well. I think that you only help those who, one, have asked you to help them, yeah, and two, it's probably coming from the police source as well to help.
Right. In the beginning, it was like 64. It was really a lot more police in the beginning than family, because they didn't know I was working with the cops, and the cops were just talking amongst themselves. I have 2 file drawers of Virginia. I have 2 or 3 of Florida, because it was just all talk. Michigan. I worked on one case, solved one case, and I have 3 or 4 other cases. So it was all, in the beginning, it was really more police that were hiring me. And in the beginning, I charged almost nothing. I mean, I did think it was special. I thought, well, my private readings are just as good. I don't know why everybody so excited about me working on these cases. So in those days, I charged $35 for a private reading and $35 for a police case. So the cops were taking it out of their pocket. They weren't going through the. Then, of course, as I got more popular and realized that I was doing a pretty good job, I was able to up my fee.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all just a transfer of energy, isn't it? In a sense, when you get paid for what your gift is. I mean, some people's gift is, doing something completely different. But
Right.
I think we get in such a tizzy, don't we? Sometimes people do about, well, you can't charge for a gift like this. But I don't believe in that neither.
All our gifts are, I'm the artist, the musician. I mean, even somebody great in math. These are all gifts. They're all from the same place.
I'm sure if someone came to see you and they were just so desperate, you would sense that, and there are things that you would do. I'm sure there is.
Of course, but it just you don't realize when you get hundreds of calls that want it free.
Well,
I would just be I would be in the poorhouse, which I'm close to because I've never been money ordered, and I just need to pay the bills.
Well, even like people like Edgar Cayce, if I can get the words out, he used to charge very little for what he did, and I think he nearly went broke a couple of times from that perspective.
Oh, absolutely, 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 and they don't realize just a little bit of monies. It just shows that they're really sincere about wanting to help.
Absolutely.
Where things are free, people sometimes take advantage of it.
Yes. Or it's not deemed as a quality service then,
Absolutely.
a gift. Yeah, which is a kind of reverse psychology. But okay, well, yeah. Well, you've had to face all this, and we talk about this now because this is, what's talked about and what's looked upon, in this type of work. So that's why we're covering it. With your gift then, when did it become apparent? What was there a catalyst for you that forced you into this area? What awoken your third eye? What awoken you to be able to go into this other dimension and bring this information through?
I was working at Hyatt Hotel. Now, this was, God, how many is 40 years ago, where women, and I was at a ceiling. And I was bored, and I really wasn't happy. And so when someone asked me to have a psychic come to our hotel, I was advertising PR. I mean, I had several hats in those days for the hotel, but I was bored with it. But I, of course, had 2 kids. I was divorced. I needed to work. And then all of a sudden, this psychic wants me to rent a hall at a Hyatt Hotel for her year predictions or whatever, and I'm going, no, we don't want those people, because you know what they look like. They're all heavy set, they have large noses and have a wart somewhere or other, and this is Hyatt, we're all no, but the woman kept after me, so finally I agreed to meet this lady, a little baby nose, no wart, and she didn't wear funny clothes, she had a suit on, so I let her rent one of the lecture halls, and she gave me the book. The catalyst was the book. It was a book about people seeing into the future or traveling into the past. And I thought it was foolishness. A good science fiction book I would have believed at that time. But she had a friend of hers, Indian, Winnebago Indian, American Indian, that wanted to teach me meditation. And that meditation, it opened everything that had always been there, opened it big time. I became a medium immediately. I think there's somebody at my door. Medium immediately. I contacted her dead mother without her even asking me. It was just amazing what happened. And then, of course, I had to practice to make sure it was real.
So let me get this right. Did you ever have to sort of see yourself walking through any door to connect to that place?
No.
Did you? What was your practice to connect to this other side of you?
Well, I had read the book about the psychometry. You touch things and they leave an imprint, and so at work, I'm at a hotel. First, I had the maids come in, and they would pass it on. You go to her office, and you give her a ring, and she tells you about herself. So that I had to practice to make sure I could do this, and the hotel was perfect. Then pretty soon the secretaries, everybody else was coming, and then pretty soon I got fired, and I was a terrible psychic because I had been doing it. I hadn't worked for like 3 months. All I wanted to do was to see if this worked. I was just consumed with this. And then when I got fired, I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got to make a living. So I thought of a nightclub, and I dressed like a gypsy. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I charged $5, but I would have given you $5, really. Again, I was practicing. In the beginning, I wanted to see if I was any good. And I remember one lady, she was a psychologist, and I picked a hotel near an airport, and I was in the lounge, and band playing. And I remember the waitress coming up one night and saying, no one believes you. No one believes that you could do this. And I said, oh, that's okay. I believe in me. And it never bothered me that other people didn't believe in me because I knew what I was doing, and I was getting the feedback. And I thought, well, I'm sorry they don't believe in me, but I know what I'm doing. I had tremendous confidence in what I was doing. Does that make sense or not?
It does. Where did that confidence come from?
I don't know. But I was practicing, and I was getting feedback. I was getting feedback, and I would do things that I would think, okay, now the next client, I'm going to look for body scars. So I would look for body scars, and then they would have to be there, and I'd always do a little proving, not to them, I didn't care, to me if it was working. How could I see? And I remember one old man, he was with his wife, and I kept seeing something on the knee area, and I must have been touching my right knee, and he said, no, there's nothing on my right knee. And then his wife poked him and said, Henry, you know she's talking about your left knee. And so I learned how I was right, and sometimes the mirror vision came in, but I learned to trust what was coming out.
Right.
So
this is
for
interesting.
$5, and they gave me wine. I learned how to be psychic on wine.
Right. Well, this is interesting. So you made yourself time served. You were your own guru in a sense. Your own teacher, and not like some of these psychics nowadays where they discover they've got the ability and they just rush into it without really.
Well, I get them all the time. They want to be a me. They want to be a me. They want to solve. They don't realize how it was years before I got into the. But I was always good. The clients from the hotel still contact me and they say, Noreen, you were as good that day as you are now. I just know better questions. I know more what they need.
Well,
but it doesn't change.
I wonder if this is a gift that you had in a previous life, if there is such a thing as exist, and that you've just brought it into this life now, and that's why you feel so comfortable with it, because you've done it before.
I think so. And I remember my best girlfriend was an ex-nun, Ellen, and she's in the book. And we used to practice together because she didn't believe anymore in her religion, and she was just, wondering if this really worked. And I did have a past life, only I always thought, everybody has American Indians coming through. I had an Asian person. I became I had no interest in Asian or Asian people or even thought about them, but this woman, very gentle and kind, came in, and she came in once at the FBI Academy. They had pushed me. I was in a box. Some agent's wife had been killed, and they had brought me in there to see what was going on. It was like a glass box, and there was a DEA agent whose wife had been killed, a local, whatever, sheriff, FBI, and I just closed my eyes and started being psychic, but they really, really pushed me, and they pushed me so much I couldn't handle anymore, so I let go, and this Asian woman came through. And they thought for a while they were looking for an Asian killer. They didn't realize I had gone into a very deep trance, and this person had taken over from me. And it was all televised. I mean, they had cameras on me, of course. Everything I said was, and finally they understood what I was talking about. And the very end is they sent me 6 photographs, and only one looked like the man that I had seen being the killer, and he turned out to be. But that was wild. God, you're bringing back all these wild memories, yeah. But people said that I have no fear. And I remember the students saying, well, you just don't have any fear. And I was thinking about that lately, and I thought, I do have fear. I fear all the time, but I'm not afraid of failure.
Well, what is fear? What is fear? It's false evidence appearing real anyway, isn't it? It's not really real. It's
a waste of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me.
You know, you mentioned there about sort of going into a trance state. I know you've probably been asked this before. As you say, you don't question this gift too much. You just get on and use it. But the reason I'm probing right now a little bit, is only just for those out there who maybe are at the beginning stage of this gift, or want to discover if they have this gift, and think, well, how the hell do I do it? Now, when I channel, I have to walk through a door, and that's like, for me, that's going into this other dimension, and then I'm connected. But for you, your gift, you're not walking through any door. You mentioned that you trance there. You just do it, but. I wish
I knew about going to a door. I wish I knew that. I mean, I was so ignorant. I just did it brutally.
But that's your gift. That's the way you do it. I mean, that's fantastic. But if you do train others now to develop their psychic gift, I don't know if you do. There's no set procedure for this. You've either got the gift open or you haven't, and whatever way you get into that gift is the way you get in. But for yourself, it's almost like, for me, listening to you, it's just there, and but it's not even it's not even your voice that's coming through. You're not hearing your voice and repeating things, or it's a combination, I would say, of different things, downloads and other bits and pieces. But am I kind of close?
Oh, you're very close. Remember the Indian that I went into the trance and got her disease? My mouth was talking the words, but I could listen. And that was the first time I thought, what the hell is going on? My mouth was saying things, but I was not paying attention to. Another part of my mind was saying, I bet there's insanity in my family. What's going on? Oh, my God. And I was listening, not paying attention, but the voice was talking. So in the deep trance, Noreen is pushed back somewhat, although in the beginning I was going, what the hell is going on? But I think in the beginning, the students have to have their objective. What is it they want to do? Are they good in medical? Are they good? Is this what we can't all be psychic detectives? What is the area of their and they should explore. The first part of their development should just be opening as many doors as they can and see how accurate they are and how it feels in all these different areas. I mean, cars. I mean, in my classes, I have them look in cars, see how some are wonderful psychic mechanics. Some of them are wonderful. So where is your expertise? It's not all going to be the same place.
Right.
So I think the first step is exploring.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. And not to want to become a famous medium neither with ego, because that's not serving anyone. Because some people, it must be very addictive to think, oh my God, I'm going to be in front of loads of people. They're going to think I'm amazing and I've got this. You can't abuse this type of gift, can you?
Oh, absolutely. And see, in the beginning, when I started 40, 50 years ago, they were hiding in the back rooms of bookstores, they called them occult bookstores. I mean, it was something to be ashamed of. They hid it. And when I became psychic, I marched. I was not afraid. I had cards printed. I thought, this is going to be my business. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to sneak around. I'm going to be proud of who I am and what I am doing.
You know, that moment where you got fired from the hotel,
Oh wow, yeah.
it's almost like that was your push to say, right, there you go now. There you go. You're on
You're
your course
right.
now.
You're
Yeah.
right. Sink or swim. Yep. And that's the nightclub and the stupid outfit I wore, a gypsy outfit. I mean, but again, $5. And who would come? Ellen, the ex-nun, used to sit in the bar and watch me from another table to make sure somebody would be coming to see me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was a step that I had to go. I had to go, and funny, even then, police came involved. The police heard about me. I don't know how, and people all. If you're good at what you do, you don't need to advertise or promote. The word of mouth is, to me, the most wonderful thing you can have going for you.
Of course.
And so just focus on helping that one person, that client, whoever it is. That's the most important thing at that moment, is what you're doing. And it always seems to be for other people.
Well, would you say that's what motivates you, helping others?
Yes, in a way, but, before I was psychic, I was a very selfish person. I mean, I don't care about other people. I don't want to help them. If they help them. I mean, I wasn't a do-gooder. I am now, but I certainly wasn't before.
Well, I don't think there's... Well, personally, I don't think there's any judgment when we pass on. I think we judge ourselves. Now,
I love that.
Now, that's an interesting one, because when you've had to experience some of the horrors that you've had to experience in your work, is it? I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. Is it difficult for you to think that way, that there's nothing judging us except for ourselves for these horrible crimes that people commit to one another?
Oh, I love how you say that. God, you think so deeper, much deeper than me. My memory. I have no memory. That's why I started tape recording the sessions, because the cops would call me in a day or two later, and they'd say, "Remember when you said that?" I go, "No, I don't remember." So it saved me from the brutality of the horrible things I was seeing, and the anger, and the fear, and the hate. It protected me from retaining that information. Does that make any sense? If I remembered everything, it would be horrible.
It would be horrible.
I couldn't handle it.
So
I couldn't handle
and
it.
that probably what helps you to think, well, maybe, when you do cross over, that yeah, okay, so we judge ourselves, even though someone's done this horrible crime to this innocent person. Who I mean, for me, I judge myself the worse than anyone else can judge me. So, maybe if all is made clear when you cross over, then being your own judge and reflecting on what you've done, and maybe experiencing the pain to what you caused others is the worst judgment, maybe, for some people. Yeah.
Oh, yes. But your energy, to me, is so pure and positive, and just the first time I spoke to you before we were on the radio, I just felt so good after talking to you. You made me feel good. So I know
good.
You must do the same to all the people you are in touch with.
I appreciate that. Well, maybe that's a little bit of my gift. Maybe so. No, I appreciate that. But thank you. But with what you've had to experience as well, I mean, as you were just touching on there, right, where you get to experience the horrors, I wonder if when a soul crosses in such acts of horror, that actually the soul can pull itself out and not have to experience the pain or the brutality.
I think they do. They because usually when I'm being killed, it's just a few moments and then it stops. It seems like they're gone. It's not anymore. They don't feel the pain. Their soul has left. The only time I really hurt for a long time was being burned. That was really bad. We had to stop the session. I couldn't get out of it. It was that burning was the worst part for me. Otherwise, most of the time but the burning was bad.
Yes.
I just get upset thinking about all this. Oh, I don't like to think about it.
No.
Okay, can we do something happy? Let's think of happy. Yeah. Let me do a funny one. Can I do a funny?
Absolutely,
no
of course.
One.
Yeah, please.
No funny one. I have I've never really been much into talking to animals, but there was a famous racehorse that had been killed, and the sheriffs didn't know what to do. They said, "Why don't you call that psychic?" So I had never really talked to an animal, so I pretended, well, give me something off the body, which is I tell my local, police, and we went up to it was in Virginia. We went up to the barn, and there was the sheriff and his deputy and the owner of the horse, and I was sitting on a bale of hay, holding the horse's tail in one hand and the bridle in the other, and then I tuned in, and the horse, of course, doesn't watch all the TV shows, and I was seeing all the people that were in his lives. I was seeing the one that mucked the barn. I saw his trainer, and then the artist had stopped drawing long ago, and so finally I said, "It's not working. I can't see through the horse. He doesn't understand the way I need to see." And I said, "Do you have the bullet?" Because he was shot. And they said, well, it's called a projectile once it enters the body. So they sent somebody back to the lab, and they gave me a tiny fragment of it, which the killer had to load the gun. So his or her energy would have been on it. So just touching it, one face of a woman. The artist started drawing. When we finished, we showed it to the owner and the sheriff. They knew exactly who it was. It was the owner of the horse, his ex-wife. He recently had remarried, and she was killing something he loved. They didn't. They made her go see psychiatric help, but I thought that was interesting. Not funny. I don't have any funny crimes, but I thought that was interesting. How our mind works.
Yes. It's a funny old thing, isn't it? The mind. Yeah. Talking about the mind as well. Thank you for sharing that story. Talking about the mind. I mean, for me, we are not our mind. For me, it seems to be, we are a soul having a human experience. Now, with all the wonderful work that you've done, what would you be able to go down that road that we're not our mind?
Well, see, I love the way you think, and you think so much more than I do. I've never even considered it. I mean, where you grow and what you talk about is things that I need to understand and learn. I never stop learning because all I've done is work, never questioning it, never understanding quite everything. I know how I work, but I've never thought of that.
Well,
but do you have any books that you've written? Anything? I mean, we must meet again. We've got to meet again.
We will. Do not worry about that. We will. No, the reason I mentioned, I mean, look, I seem to be, my thought train pattern on all this is that there's a larger framework at play than what any book has talked about, than what we even understand. There's a framework at play that's beyond our conscious understanding, okay, of what we are. So when you say that you've never considered these things, I think that's fantastic, because you've just gone with this gift. You've not tried to label it as some people do. You've not tried to put it in a box, because it's this nature of reality which is beyond our understanding, isn't it, in a sense? So
yes.
That's
it just comes forth, it flows. Yes.
Well,
But you make me think. It's sort of like an artist. I remember Mother was an artist, and somebody was asking her how she paints, and she said, Noreen, I couldn't explain to them how I paint. She was a modern artist, feelings and emotion is what she put on the canvas, so she couldn't explain it. And it's the same thing. I could do a few technical things about energy and basic things, but you are so far beyond in your thinking of how the mind, and I do believe we're beyond it. I do.
Yes, yeah, but that's been a journey for you, though. I mean, and you've gone through so much experience with that journey. So it's great to hear someone like yourself to be able to talk to about it as well. Do you find it's difficult not to be emotionally involved in some of these awful cases?
No, this is what is so good. No, I'm not emotionally involved. I'm not, because I forget. I mean, I don't work with family because that would get me emotionally involved. I always work with the police, and they're so unemotional. So I learned very early that I don't get emotionally involved.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the police. Yeah.
And they trained me early because they didn't get emotionally involved. They just wanted the answers to this, and what I learned from them is they needed to go know this information. They needed to know this information, and a lot of it is on my website. What they need to know. That as a psychic, I need to fill in those blanks for them.
Have you ever had a missing case where it's baffled you as well into what you were seeing, and it was a bit you was not able to understand what you were being shown? It was just it led you down a strange road.
Oh, they all baffle me. It makes no sense to me when the information is coming out, and no logic whatsoever. And that's why every once in a while I have to say, is this making any sense? You know what I'm talking about? Yes, continue. Because it's all coming from a source that I'm not paying. It's, again, like that trance. It's just coming out. It makes no sense. All of my cases, none of them, when I look at it, like, how in the world did they figure that out? That's why I could never claim to solve a crime. It's them, the police. They figured out what the heck I was talking about. They figured out my clues. I mean, those numbers that I gave, I didn't know they were longitude and latitude.
I
mean, those three
incredible.
letters. I mean, I would have never known any of that.
No.
So again, again, that's logic. And then when it's over with, I have no memory of the case. I usually have, in the beginning, I used to have not only tape recorded, I had most of the cases transcribed.
Oh,
I don't work enough
right.
now to do that. Well, I couldn't stand to listen to myself. I couldn't handle the screaming because I would be feeling the pain.
Oh, God.
So, but on paper, I could handle reading it.
Wow.
And I would be very unimpressed with me. I really was. I mean, that's why I don't think I'm anything special. As long as you give the information they're asking. And the artist, I used to work with this wonderful artist, I think 5 years. He was a police sketch artist. He turned into a captain and all that. But for 5 years, we struggled for maybe the first several times we worked. What is a round face? What when I'm seeing an oval face? And finally, he would never make one change of what I told him and what he put on paper. And he was always, like, I would say 80-90%. Sometimes, it was like they posed for the picture. I never found another artist like that. And I would say to him, how do I find another artist? What do I look for? Just tell them to draw only what you've said.
Yeah, easier said than done, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing.
But he to me was remarkable.
Yeah.
But I'm wearing myself out. I can't talk much longer.
Okay.
I don't know how long your show is.
Well, no, we're literally a couple of minutes to the end right now, so don't worry. It may not. Yeah. No, I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us, and it's a lot of encouragement to others. Are you training anyone to sort of maybe take your work on further and to carry on this type of work?
I've had offers for mentors, but I haven't found the one I need. I'm going to be teaching a class in Florida soon.
Okay.
But again, my job is I would rather teach law enforcement.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's where I would like to pass it on.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Well, what would you say then, as a final question, is maybe the most important message of your work?
I would say for individuals to accept who they are, their faults, their pimples, all to accept who they are and believe in self.
Excellent. Well, Noreen Renier, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, you need to give me one more thing. I need a hug.
A virtual hug is now coming your way.
Loved it. Thank you. Bye.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests by going to themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.